Okay, welcome to part 2 of this lecture on HTML. In the first part, we looked at what HTML was. We saw the importance of using HTML tags to describe the content and to structure it in an appropriate way, which would be good for the browsers, search engine optimization, be found by search engines, accessibility reasons, and so on. In the last half, we're just going to pick up a few points. Shouldn't take too long. I mentioned this in the first part. Block and inline is kind of important terminology for your reference, so we'll go for it again. So you've got block elements that appear on their own block and were to take up the whole available horizontal width of the page by default, like paragraph tags, tables, lists, headings, and so on. And you've got inline ones that usually go inside of those, like strong for make it visually emphasize on the page, where you want us to highlight sort of certain little bits of the content. And the inline ones that don't fill the whole page by themselves, just part of the page they take up. So here's some I made earlier again. Here we've got heading 1, heading 2, and a paragraph tag. These are all block level tags that should take up the whole width of the page by default. And inside of the third one there, I've put EM for emphasis, where Visual Browser is italic. That's an inline bit, it only affects that little part there, and therefore doesn't go on its own block across the whole page. So let's show you what I mean. So let's play with earlier on. Go back to where we start. There we go. So basically in a browser, you can see we've got the heading 1, heading 2, and the paragraph with the emphasized bit between those opening and closing EM tags here. Now we can use a tool in Chrome and Firefox. So a browser called Inspect Element or Inspect. Chrome and Inspect. And we can look at where HTML is on the page and what space it takes up. It's quite a useful thing you could use later on more. So you can see if you look inside the body tags of the page, we mouse over that. You can see on the left there where the body of the page is, all of it really. And it's got the orange bit around the outsides, which is kind of like a margin. Can that be used for later? Open the body, you can see there's the heading 1. So you can see heading 1 stretches right across the available width of the page, whatever that is. Heading 2 the same, paragraph the same. And look inside the paragraph now. So there's the EM, the inline bit. You can see on the right, the left-hand side there, it only takes up as much width as it has. It doesn't fill a block across the page, inline rather than block. Just to go over that terminology there with you. So again, to mention the doc type. Doc type is the first line of HTML, and that defines and tells the browser and the validator, as we'll see again shortly, basically what type of HTML you're using, and therefore what tags are legal, can be used. It varies from type to type of HTML, and what rules to allow and to enforce. And there are some syntax rules in HTML5, not many. Basically, you can only use tags, so elements of the code that are permitted within the spec. And the older ones, or ones you make up yourself. Validator will see will throw an error if you do. It's probably nested inside each other. We'll come to that in a second. And certain tags must have attributes that further describe what they do for them to work. There's some basic rules there to follow. And this validator here, if you go to this validator service, as you will in the labs, basically you can check your pages against those kind of rules. You report back, tell you if the code is valid, it follows the rules or not. If it doesn't, you can go back and fix it. And all professional web developers who do this helps make the code well formed and cross browser and cross device if it follows the web standard rules properly. One of those things was nesting. It's to open and close tags in the right order, right paired order. if you look at the bits in the code there in the ready kind of color, these are correct because basically we're going to start with a paragraph p tag, end with a p tag at the end. Second tag is strong, ends in a second tag ending is a strong. Third one's em in the right order inside there again. That also would be applied to the text in between. That text would be a paragraph, would be strong emphasized and italic as well. This one, on the other hand, on the bottom there, is not right. Because we started with a paragraph, but we ended with an em. Second one's strong, end was strong, correct? But the bits in the middle are wrong. They don't follow the start and end in order, is not correct. So avoid that. Give you an error message. This one, there's not a bit of a mistake here. Eagle-eyed, the people in HTML will know this. Basically, the img tag is the image tag and says please import an image into the page and add it in. But to work, it needs an src attribute and an an alt attribute. src and alt attributes to actually work. Yeah, so you say img tag, say I want image please. src is the source, what image to import and display. Alt, some alternative text. It's important for two reasons. One, if your browser fails to load the image for some reason, alt will display instead, tell you a little bit about what should have been there at least. And also it's important for the visually impaired. Their browsers will read the alts and convert that text into spoken speech. They can perceive a little bit about what the image was meant to be about on the page. And within the rules, alt must have reasonable content and not just blank or to fill the browser, to the validator, or have some non-descriptive words. You might be looking for reasonable description that tells the visually impaired browser, etc., what that image is actually for and about. Coding clarity, I mentioned this before, I believe, in the first part of the lecture. Indent your code, so it's clear what code lists within what. Comment your code, good program practice. Stick to lowercase, makes it easier to read. Probably mix uppercase and lowercase. And where you've got tags that contain content like paragraphs or strong, as an opening and closing tag, make sure you both open and close the tag rather than just open it. That can get a bit messy and hard to read. Understand where the tags begin and end. So container tags like paragraphs, strong, em, etc., lists and so on, should have opening and closing parts. So which one, for example, of indentation, one of the coding tips, which one is clearer, the first bit or the second bit? I hope you're all shouting Gary, it's just the first one. Because basically the first one shows you that in this case, it's the OL tag, the ordered list tag is what's called the parent. And if you want a list, you start with OL and a closing OL, list to end. In between, you have the LI tags, which basically find the list items that you want, like a menu or whatever you want. So that clearly more at the top shows that the LIs live inside the OLs, whereas the second one is a bit more messy. Hard to tell that the LIs live inside the OLs, perhaps, to my eye anyway. Good comments? So obviously by now, you learned programming in semester 1. Basic code should be commented to indicate what it does, useful for you when you come back to it later on after a while. And also if you work in a team, you can more easily pass that code across to team members and they can understand what you've done, how to use your code and adapt it, etc. For what their purpose actually is. So in summary, across part 1 and 2 of this lecture on HTML, we've seen that HTML is for the creation and structuring and description of content. It's very important to describe it with the right kind of tags, the right kind of job, which helps it work better in search engine optimization to be found by your search engine. Works better for the accessibility browsers, and it's better for the browser as well to understand what your code is all about. Within that, we saw as well we could have the area grouping tags like header, area nav, footer, etc., main. to further describe your content and group it into logical kind of areas. And again, we'll be helping, well, I'll help do all this kind of things said about semantic meaning of HTML, and it'll help you get good marks in the assignment as well, which is obviously what we want you to do, so please do that. As well, to get good marks in the assignment, make sure your pages are well formed, follow the syntax rules, so use the validator, and check your coding clarity tips. You follow those in indentation, commenting, etc. All get you a cracking mark. Right, next week we'll look at CSS and how to style pages. And have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.